How to create folders in the World Outliner and move actors inside them with C++ in Unreal, because working in a well-organized level is so much better. So let's get to it. And as usual, here we are in a completely new header file, and you will see today we have a lot of functions. Yeah, a lot of them. At the beginning, when I started working on this video, I was like, it's gonna take me 10 minutes, maybe 2 hours, whatever. It's not gonna be a big deal. But then it took me like more than a day, and there's a lot of functions. Yeah, dealing with folders in the World Outliner is not that easy. Anyway, so today we have a new header file, and all those functions are only going to work in the editor, because the World Outliner is only available to you in the editor. Obviously, once we have a package build, we don't have access to the World Outliner, so we cannot create more folders in there. So all these functions are only going to work in the editor, and now it's time to get started. So first function that we have right here, we have a little emper function to convert a string to a FFolder, because, well, it's not that easy. Actually, it takes a few lines of code, so I just decided to create a little function to help us to just convert the FString to an FFolder, and then we'll be able to work with that folder. Perfect. So that's a little function just to convert the string to an FFolder, and then we have the first real function. Create folder in world. Pretty straightforward. You provide the path of the folder, and it's just going to create a folder for you. For the path of the folder, it's straightforward also. You just start with the first folder, and then you have the second folder if you want one, third folder, fourth folder, etc. So you can have as many folders as you want, and that function is just going to create the whole hierarchy for you. Perfect. So that was the first function. Now that we have a folder in the world, maybe we want to move actors inside those folders. That will make sense. So move actor in world folder, you provide the actor that you want to move in the folder and also the path of the folder in which you want the actor to end up in, and that function is simply going to move the actor inside that folder. Perfect, now we know how to create folders and move actors inside them. That's not too bad, but then what if I scroll down a little bit? So I'm gonna scroll all the way down here. What do we have? We have a function to get all the folders that are under a specific folder, so that might be useful in case you want to loop through all the actors inside the specific folder and do it recursively maybe. So that function is going to give you all the folders that are inside a folder. You provide the path of the folder you're going to analyze and a little boolean to decide if you want to retrieve all the folders recursively or only the first layer of folders, and that function is going to return you a list of all the folder paths inside that folder. Perfect. Now that we have all those folders, maybe we want to know all the actors that are inside all those folders. So that's why right here I have another function, the get all actors under folder. You have a folder, this is the folder right here, and then you can retrieve all the actors inside that folder. And you can also do it recursively, so that's really awesome. And that function is going to give you a list of all the actors that are inside that folder. And finally, we have one last function to delete a folder from the World Outliner. So delete folder from world, you just provide the folder path, and that's it. That function is going to delete the folder for you. Perfect. Now we're done with the header file, and yeah, we have a lot of functions to do, so let's jump in the CPP. And as usual, we're gonna start with the includes, and today we have just two includes for 6 functions. Not too bad. The first include is the editor AActors.h. That's gonna be the folder in the World Outliner, and then we have the editor engine that we're gonna use to retrieve the world that is currently open in the editor, because that's the context we're gonna use for today's examples. Both those includes are inside one module, the Unreal ED module, so let's just make sure that this one is already in the build.cs file. So I'm gonna go in there, and where is my Unreal ED? Here we go, I have my Unreal ED module right here. If you don't have it, just add it in the list and it should work. Perfect. Now let's go back in the CPP and let's take a look at the first function, which is the one we're gonna use to convert a string to an FFolder. So that's just an utility function that we're gonna use all over the place to easily convert from a folder path to an FFolder structure. So to do that, the first step I'm gonna do is to retrieve the editor, because for today all the folders we're going to create are going to be inside the current world in the editor. Just to simplify everything, we're just going to use the current world of the editor, and to do that, well, we need the editor. Here I'm just going to add a little check to make sure that the editor is valid, but it should always be, otherwise the code is not going to compile anyway. And if the editor is valid, then I can retrieve the world currently open in the editor. So gedit get editor world context. Inside there you have access to the world, and that's going to give you the world. that's going to be the context for all the folders we're going to create, because the folders are saved in the world, same as the actors. So we're going to use this world to create all our folders today. We have the world context. Now that we have the world, we can simply use it to retrieve the root of all the folders inside that world. It's a little bit weird, but all the folders inside the world have a parent, a root parent for all the folders. And in this case, it's really just the world itself, but we still need it to create an FFolder. So here I'm going to retrieve the folder root using FFolder get world root folder, providing it the world. That's going to give you the world root folder that I can then just retrieve the object, because that's just the object that we need. We don't need the whole folder. So get root object, that's going to give me the folder root. Now that I have the root, I can finally create an FFolder by providing it the root and the path of the folder we want to create. So we take a string, we retrieve the parent of the folder we want to create, and then we create an FFolder from that parent and that string. And that's it. We return it to the user, and then we're going to use that all over the place in our code, in all the other functions. Perfect. So that was for the utility function. Nothing major here. Then we have the first real function to create a folder in the world. And to do that, well, we first need the world again. So I'm going to do the same exact logic in most of the functions today. We're going to retrieve the editor. If the editor is null, I'm just going to return. But if the editor is valid, then I'm going to retrieve the world currently open in that editor. We have the world, and then the first thing to create a folder inside that world is to convert the folder path to an FFolder. And that's what we're going to do using the utility function we just created. So to FFolder, we provide the folder path, and that's going to create an FFolder, and that's the folder we want to create. So folder to create right here. And now that we have that structure, we can create the folder. So inside FActorFolders, we have access to the create folder function. So FActorFolders get the create a folder. You provide the context of the folder. So in this case, it's going to be the world of the editor, and then the folder you want to create. And that's the folder that we just have right here. Perfect. That function is going to create a folder for you. Awesome. We're actually done with this one. Actually, no, because it's creating a folder. It's creating it in the world, but it doesn't mark the world as modified. So the user doesn't actually know that something happened other than the world outliner is modified. That's nice, but it doesn't display the little star icon beside the asset in the content browser telling the user that it has to save the world. And that's a little bit weird in my opinion, because that's where the data should be saved. It should be saved in the world asset, and the create folder function right here doesn't mark that asset as modified. So we're going to do it manually right here. So world mark package 30, that's going to display the little star icon beside the folder asset, and then the user is going to know that, well, he has to save the folder if he wants to save his changes. Perfect. Now we're done for real. We can see that it was a success. We created a folder in the world. Yay, first function done. Now it's time to jump to the next one to move an actor in that new folder, because we created a folder. Let's move an actor in there. To move an actor in the folder, we have to make sure that first, well, the actor is valid. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work, obviously. So here I'm just going to check if my actor is null. I'm just going to return right away. Now that I have a valid actor, I can simply set, well, the folder, because that information is actually saved inside the actor itself. It's not saved in the world, it's saved in the actors. So all the actors in your world know in which folder they are. And that's awesome, because that's super easy to set. We just have to call the set folder path underscore recursively, because I want to make sure that whatever the length of my path, whatever how many folders there are in my folder path, I want to be able to set it properly and for it to always work. And that's going to be good enough for today, because we just want to make sure that the folder path is always set properly, and that should always work. So actor set folder path recursively, and that's it. The path is set. We just have to do one last thing. The same thing as the previous function is to mark the world as dirty, so the user knows that it has to save the world. In this case, I'm just going to directly get the world containing the actor and mark it as dirty. The reason why I'm using that world instead of the world currently open in the editor, it's because, well, it just makes sense. The actor is inside the world, so let's just take that world. And also the set folder path recursively uses that world as context also. So you pretty much need to use that world to make sure that it matches the world used in this function. And that's it. Now the asset is marked as modified, so the user knows that it has to save it, and then we can just say that it was a success. We moved an actor in another folder. Perfect. The two easiest functions are done. Now it's time to take a look at the three most complicated functions. And the next one is the function to get all the folders under another folder in the world outliner, because in a folder you can have another folder, you can have another folder inside that folder, and another one, and another one, and another one. And when building your scene, it's probably going to be useful for you to retrieve all the folders that are inside of the other folders, or maybe get all the actors inside all those folders also. So that's why right here I decided to add those two functions, and they are pretty complicated. Yeah, and we're also going to need those two functions inside the delete, but we're going to get back to that a little bit later. So first, to get all the folders under a folder, we have to first, retrieve the world. Because the folder is inside the world, we are looking inside a world context for all the folders that we're looking for, so we have to retrieve the world. Same thing, editor is valid. If it's not, I'm going to return, otherwise I'm getting the world currently open in the editor. Once I have that world, I'm going to make sure that the folder path we received as input is formatted properly, and the way I'm going to do that is like this. So I'm going to take my folder path, converting it to a folder, and then I'm going to reconvert it back to a string, and that's going to give me the same thing as I receive as input, so the folder path, but formatted properly in the case that the user made some mistakes and added a slash at the beginning, a slash at the end, or maybe 2 slashes in between the folder names or things like that. That little piece of code right here is just going to format the folder name properly, and that's going to be pretty useful because we're going to do simple string comparison to decide which folders are inside which folder. We have to make sure that the original folder is formatted properly, otherwise the strings comparison are not going to work. So that's why right here I'm making sure that this little guy right here is formatted properly. And now that we're sure that it's formatted properly, we're just going to have to, well, loop through all the folders inside the world and then build a list of all the folders we're looking for, because one folder can contain a bunch of other folders, and we're going to set them inside that little list right here that we're going to return to the user at the end. But to populate that list, we have to, as I said, loop through all the folders inside the world. And yeah, that's a little bit weird because we have to use a lambda function. There's no other way to loop through all the folders in the world. There's no get function to get all the folders in the world, and then you can do a simple for each loop. Instead, you have to go through a lambda function. It's not that complex. It's just a little bit weird if you're not used to the syntax. So I'm going to go through it with you. So first, we have to get the function in which we want to provide the lambda function. So that's the for each folder right here. So in FActorFolders, get the for each folder. That's a function that loops through all the folder in a world that you're providing it. So that's the world right here. Perfect. Up to here, it's relatively simple. You're just calling a function, providing the first argument, which is the world object. Okay, that's fair. That function is going to loop through all the folders inside that world and output them inside this little lambda function right here. That lambda function is going to be called for each folder in the world outliner, and the current folder is going to be this folder right here. So that's the current folder. That's the one we're iterating on, and that's the one we want to compare with the folder path we receive as input to know if this folder is inside that folder path or not. And to be able to do that, we're going to need a few extra variables, and that's what I'm doing right here. I'm providing extra variables to my lambda function. I'm providing first my list of folders that I want to populate, because if I want my lambda function to populate that list, the function needs to know where the list is. So I'm providing it that list. Then I'm providing it the path of the folder parent of the folder we're looking for. So we'll be able to compare it with the current folder of the loop. And finally, a little boolean to tell me if I want it to be recursive or not, because that's going to help us determine if we want to consider this folder as a child or not of the current folder. So this is what I'm doing right here. Inside those brackets, I'm providing all the extra variable that I want to provide to my lambda function, and then the function is going to run for each folder in the world outliner. Inside those brackets right here is the logic of the function, and that's where we're going to compare the current folder with the folder path that we receive as input, and then add them into the list if they are a child of that folder. So let's start with that. I'm going to start by checking if the current folder is not equal to the folder I receive as input, because I want the child folder. I don't want the current folder. I want all the children, but I don't want the current one. So here I'm just making sure that the current folder is not equal to the parent of all the folders I'm looking for. So if it's not equal to that, that's good. That's a valid candidate. And then I'm also going to check if this folder is under that parent. So if the folder toString contains the folder path of the parent, it means that this folder is a child of that one right there. Here I'm just making sure that this folder is a child of the parent. Doesn't matter at which level yet. We're going to compare that a little bit later, but for now we just want to make sure that this folder is it a child of that one. I don't know how many layers there are between myself and that parent folder, but for now I'm under that one. Perfect, it's a good start. And the next check is going to be exactly that, the recursive bool right here. If the bool is true, it means that we're looking for all the children of that parent folder. It doesn't matter which layer they are, so we can simply add them inside the folder list right away. So folders, add that folder to string. Perfect. We wanted all the children. We didn't care if they were direct children or not, so we can simply add them all to my folder list. Perfect, that's good. But in the case that the boolean is false, it means that we only want the direct children of that folder. And in that case, I'm just going to make sure that they are direct children. So if the parent of the current folder is equal to the folder path, it means that the folder is directly under the folder path that we receive as input. It's not a grandchild, it's a direct child. Perfect. That's what I'm doing right here. All those string comparisons are simply to check if the folder that we're looping through fits inside the folder path. And if so, I'm just going to add them inside my little list right here. So once again, if they are not the parent, if they are under the parent, if it's recursive, I'm adding them all. Doesn't matter which one it is. But if it's not recursive, I'm going to make sure that I'm a direct children of the parent before adding them inside the list. And that's it. The lambda function is done. But if we leave it like that, it's not going to compile. The lambda function expects to return a boolean, so I'm just going to return true. Here we go. It returned true and it worked. Perfect. We looped through all the folders in the world. We added all the children folders inside this little list right here. We can simply see that it was a success. We were able to get all the folders in the world and obviously return them to the user because that's what he wanted. So return the folders right here and we're done with this one. I think that was the most complicated one. Yeah. That one's done. Now it's time to take a look at how to retrieve all the actors inside the folders. Not only the folders, because folders contain actor and that's what they are used for. So obviously we want to be able to retrieve the actors contained inside those folders. So get all actors on the folder. To do that, we have to first get the editor and the world. That's done as usual. We have the world. Now the next step is to build a list of all the folder paths we want to look into to find the actors. I say a list because we have the original folder path right here, but if you want it to be recursive, we have to also include all those folders inside our list that we're then gonna loop through and find the actors contained in all those folders. It can be only one. If that boolean is false, it's just going to be one, and that's what I'm doing right here actually. So I'm building a list of fname, which are all the folders that we want to look into, and by default it just contains one folder, and that's the folder path we receive as input. And that's it. That list contains one folder. We're gonna loop through that folder and retrieve all the actors. But in the case that we wanted it to be recursive, then in that case I'm going to also append all the other folders that are inside that folder, and that's why we created the previous function get all folders under folder. You provide the path of the folder parent. That's what I'm doing right here, and then you want it to be recursive because that's what we want in this current context, and then it's going to output you all the folders that are inside that folder. It's going to give them to you in a list, and then you can use that list and append it to the previous list right here, and it's going to give you a big list of the current folder, and also all the other folders that are inside that folder. But that's only if we wanted it to be recursive. Otherwise, we're just going to use the current folder as folder path. We're going to build a list out of it. Doesn't really matter. It's a list of one element, and then we can simply use that list to get all the actors from those folders. So that function right here is inside FActorFolders. So FActorFolders get actors from folders. You provide the world because the function needs to know the context. So here is the world. You have to provide the list of folders that you want to look into and retrieve all those actors. And that function is going to output the actors inside this little variable right here, the last variable that you're providing to the function, which is an array of actors. And that's going to be populated with all the actors contained in all the folders that you're providing it. And actually, that's it. You now have the list of all the actors in those folders. So I can say that it was a success, and I can obviously return the actors because, well, the user is probably gonna need them. Perfect. Okay, now it's time for the last function, delete folder from world, and that one should be simple in theory, but in practice it's more complicated. When you delete a folder in the world outliner, what happens? Well, first it deletes the folder. That's obvious, but it also takes all the children of that folder and move them up one level. And that's not the default behavior actually. The default behavior is just I'm deleting the folder if there's nothing in it. If there's still something in the folder, I'm not doing anything. And yeah, that's not really stable. So in that case, I'm just going to try to replicate exactly what happens in the editor when you delete a folder. So I'm going to reparent everything contained in that folder to the parent of the folder we want to delete. So I'm going to take everything, move them up one level, and then I can delete the folder finally. And that would have been so easy if it was the default behavior, but it was not. So, well, we're gonna have a bit of work to do manually. Here we go. First step, get the world. That's done. We know how it is. Now we have the world. Then I'm going to convert the folder path to an FFolder to be able to work with the folder I want to delete. So folder to delete. And once I know which folder I want to delete, I have to loop through all the actors in the world and also all the folders in the world to reparent them to their proper parent. And that's what we're gonna do. So first I'm going to retrieve all the actors inside that folder. So get all actors under folder, providing it the folder path. We obviously want it to be recursive because we want to reparent all the actors inside that folder. So get all actors under folder. That's going to give you a list of all those actors. With that list, we're going to loop through all the actors, and then we're just going to reparent them all. To reparent them, we need to know first what's their old folder, where are they at the moment. So I'm going to take my actor and do a get the folder path to retrieve the name of the folder that contains the actor, and then I'm going to convert that to a string to be able to convert it to a folder, and that's going to give me the old folder where the actor is currently in. And then based on that folder, we're going to determine where we want to move the actor, in which other folder we want to move the actor to be able to delete the current folder. And that's what we're going to do right here. So I'm going to create myself a new folder right there. That new folder is going to be built from the old folder path. So old folder to string right here. I have the path of my old folder. And from that folder path, I'm going to replace the folder I want to delete. So the path of the folder I want to delete by the parent of the folder I want to delete. So the one right above it. So I'm going to move everything up one level. My actor is inside a folder. It's somewhere under the parent, like let's say it's right here. And then I'm going to replace the path of the parent, which is this one right there, by the one that is above it. So I'm just going to move that one over here. There we go. And that should work. That should give me a folder name that is right above the folder I want to delete. A folder to delete right here. So that's my old folder. That's my new folder. And then I can simply move my actor in world folder. That's the function we created at the beginning. So I have my actor right here, and I'm going to move it inside that new folder right there. Perfect. Now all the actors should be reparented properly. But we also have to do the same thing for the folders, because a folder can contain a folder, and when we delete a folder, we have to reparent all those folders also. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to call the previous function, get all folders under folder, providing it the path of the folder I want to look into, and obviously I also want it to be recursive. That's going to give me all the folders under that folder that I want to delete. So I have all my paths right here. I'm going to loop through all of them, and I'm going to do the same exact thing as for my actors. So I'm going to determine what is the old folder. And for that one, it's simple. You just have to convert the path to a folder, and that's giving me the old folder. And from that old folder, we're also going to determine the new folder. Same exact logic as the previous one. So old folder to string, we're going to replace the path of the folder that we want to delete by the parent of the folder we want to delete. And that should give me a new folder that should be valid even after deleting the folder that we want to delete. And then I can simply rename my folder. So FActorFolders get the rename folder in world. You provide the world context, you provide the old folder, and then the new folder. And that function is simply going to rename the old folder to the new folder, and that should work perfectly. Awesome. So we renamed all the folders, we renamed all the actors, and now we can finally delete the folder. That's exactly what we wanted to do here. So FFolders get the delete folder, the world context, and the folder that we want to delete, and that's it. Okay, we're done. That would have been so much simpler if all that little logic right here was already inside this function, but hey, it was not, so we had to do it manually. But anyway, it's done. Now we just have to mark the package dirty. Don't forget about that. So the world marked package dirty, so the user knows that we just modified it and he has to save all those changes, and then we can simply say that it was a success, and we can finally jump in Unreal to see if it works. So it's Unreal time. Here I have a super empty level. I just have a bunch of actors in there, but they are not really useful. The only one we're going to use is the warrior. What we're going to do is create a bunch of folders and move the warrior around in all those folders. And we're going to do that using a user interface. So here it is. I just have a little combo box at the top to be able to select which folder I want to create or delete or move my actor into. And then I have 3 buttons, one to create a folder, one to move the actor inside the folder, and one to delete a folder. And we're just going to use these 3 buttons. That's going to be enough because the delete folder function already uses all the other functions we created, so we'll be able to test them at the same time. Perfect, let's jump in the graph, and here it's pretty straightforward. When I click on the create folder button, it's going to call the create folder in world function we created, feeding it the path of the folder I'm going to create. Same thing for deleting, so I'm going to click on delete folder, it's going to call the delete function, feeding it the path I want to delete, and then when I want to move an actor in a folder, I'm going to click on the button, it's going to call the function move actor in folder, it's going to provide the actor I want to move in the folder. In my case, I just want to move my warrior, and it's hard-coded right here. And I also want to provide the path of the folder in which I want to move my warrior, obviously. So good, that's it for the blueprint. Now I'm going to go back right here, and I'm going to run my widget, and here it is. By default, I don't have any folders in my world, so I'm going to try to create folder 1. Create folder. Here we go. I created a new folder. Hey, here it is. And we can also see that it marked my level as modified. We can see the little star icon right here on top of the asset. So that means that the user knows that it has to save the asset to apply those changes. Perfect. So we created the first folder. What if I try to delete the folder? Yep, it deleted the folder. I can create it again, delete, create, delete, create, delete. Perfect, it works. I can create the folder again, and then I can move my actor into that folder. There we go. The warrior is now inside the folder. I can delete the folder, and now the warrior is outside of the folder. Okay, create, move, delete. It works. Now I can create another folder. Let's say I'm going to try to create folder 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. So create folders is going to create the whole hierarchy. It's creating folder 1, folder 2, and folder 3. And now I have all my folders right here. I can try to move my warrior in, let's say, folder 1/2. So I'm going to move my actor in there. Here we go. I have folder 1, folder 2, and inside folder 2, I have my warrior. Perfect. I can move it again. I can move it in folder 3. There we go. It's in folder 3. And I can even move it inside an empty folder, which will simply place it back outside of all the folders. Now the warrior is simply inside the world. It's not inside any folder. But let's bring it back inside, let's say, folder 3. Now the warrior is going to be in folder 3. Perfect. But what happens if I delete the folder 3? I'm going to delete it. Hey, the warrior is now in folder 2. That makes sense. The folder 3 doesn't exist anymore. Perfect. What if I delete folder 1? Now in that case, I'm going to delete it. And now the folder 2 is now at the root of the scene. It doesn't have any parent. And the warrior is still in folder 2 because, well, I just deleted folder 1. I didn't touch folder 2. And now I can obviously delete folder 2. And we can see that the warrior is now outside of all the folders. Perfect. It seemed to work. I'm going to recreate a few folders. Here we go. Create folder 1, folder 2. I'm going to move the warrior in, let's say, folder 1. Move actor in folder 1. Here we go. I can always delete folder 1, folder 2. Perfect, it didn't touch the warrior, and I can even move the warrior inside a folder that doesn't exist. So let's say in folder 3, move actor in folder, there we go, it recreated the folder 3, moved my warrior inside that folder. Same thing if I want to move it inside folder 2. There we go, the warrior moves around inside all those folders. Perfect, so I guess that covers everything. That was how to create folder in the world outliner and move actors inside them, and that's gonna be it for today's video. So I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye bye.